Hello and welcome to the Curiosity and Consciousness podcast with me, Karen Maloney. I am your host, and the intention of this podcast is to help us open our minds, get curious about ourselves, and to raise our vibration and consciousness levels. Through these conversations, we hope that you will go on an inward journey to discover the truth of who you are and to become aware of your own energy and vibration. We have the power to consciously create our lives, but we need to wake up to this fact before we can begin the process and learn the key of self-responsibility. Check out the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Acast, Castbox, or whatever platform you listen on, and please like, subscribe, and share the podcast. Leave a review, leave a rating, as this will help it to reach more people. Check out my website as well, Soul Power Light, www.soulpowerlight.com. Hello everybody, welcome, happy new year, welcome to 2021. Can you believe it? Oh, wow, 2020 felt like the longest year at times, but now that we're here, it's like, oh, it actually went really quick. So I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and a magical new year, and I hope you are excited or feeling a little bit renewed or energized for the year ahead. And if not, that's okay. Be patient and lots of self-compassion for yourself. I hope you got to spend time with family and friends and loved ones, and restrictions didn't infringe on that too much. I also hope you took a little bit of time for yourself and did some reflection on maybe what 2020 taught you, or if you gained any new insights or wisdom about yourself, or just general new perspectives and how you would like to be or who you would like to be moving forward. I have a super conversation today, I think a really empowering one to start the new year with. But first I want to remind you of my 3-month program starting next month. And really it's for you if you're a woman who is just feeling a bit exhausted, lethargic, unmotivated by life. There are things you want to achieve and do. You know there is more to life, but you just haven't been able to create life on your terms yet. And that's really what this program is about. It's really all about you coming back to you and not being afraid to be yourself, stepping into that integrity and your authenticity, which, believe me, I know. I've been on the journey and it does seem scary, but this is the space where I will lead you and guide you, and we will be a small group of like-minded people doing this work together. So pop me an email, karen@soulpowerlight.com, and I can share more with you. So then back to today's guest, and I have Brendon Watt. And Brendon lives with an outrageous demand for an ever-expanding life and a tenacious desire to change the world. Growing up, he always recognized the difference in himself, yet he spent most of his time trying to fit into expectations. Brendon is proof that anyone can reinvent themselves. After decades of conformity, he was a self-confessed complete loser 10 years ago and found himself broke, miserable, and living in a spare room in his mother's house with his 5-year-old son. He then made a huge demand that he was going to change his life, and he has done exactly that. Now he is known worldwide for his intense kindness and awe-inspiring facilitation. As an international best-selling author and leading facilitator with Access Consciousness, a global empowerment company in 176 countries, he inspires people to know they are just one choice away from change. So this was a brilliant, insightful, and empowering conversation with Brendon, and I think the perfect way to start the year, and something that we can bring forward with us, because as we touched in the conversation towards the end, we're really going through a massive shift collectively and the planet globally. So it's more, I think we're in the time of when we need to come back to ourselves and work from our own core and truth and integrity and joy, and leaning into our own difference as well, and getting comfortable in that, in being ourselves. So Brendon shares lots of information around that topic and really very pragmatic information as well, and really asking questions of ourselves and kind of taking out the fluff a little bit. And if something is really not working for us, well, then we must change it. So a brilliant conversation. Brendon also talks about the ability to choose, being more present, getting caught in negative mind chatter, judgments, self-sabotage, and how we can overcome these things within ourselves. So check it out, and you can check out more on Access Consciousness on accessconsciousness.com, and you can also check out Brendon's website, brendonwatt.com, and that's Brendon with an O. Or as always, you can go to my website, soulpowerlight.com, and in the podcast section there will be all links to Brendon's work and social media. So once again, Happy New Year. We've made it this far. Enjoy the conversation and take from it what you will. Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining for another episode. I have the lovely Brendon Watt joining me today. So first of all, you're very welcome, Brendon.
Hi Karen, thank you.
And we just discovered there from our quick little chat, we're actually both in Mexico at the moment.
It's a small world.
Small world indeed. The first episode of 2021. Welcome to 2021, and looking forward to connecting and talking about maybe resolutions or kind of self-sabotage and how we can best support ourselves in kind of making those commitments we always make to ourselves but we always seem to renege on. So hopefully you'll be able to share some information and that on those topics as well. But first of all, I suppose, how was your 2020? It was certainly a shifting year, and how was it for you?
Well, it's definitely been an adjustment. I mean, I travel the world facilitating classes. So I went from that, I think it was end of February, where I pretty much had the next 10 months of the year planned out. I was like, I'm going for this, I'm doing this. And then the lockdown came and I was like, what am I going to do? Yeah. But I realized, like, I've talked a lot about that over the last 10 months as well, with how much we create our lives with this predictable future. And we go, well, this is what's happening, but we don't actually prepare ourselves for what can come or the change that can come. And it's like, even the thing with the New Year's resolutions is January 1st, 2020. If you would have had a New Year's resolution and went, I'm going to travel the world more, and I'm going to do all these things around the world, and I'm going to get out of the house more, and I'm going to be more social. And it's like, and you have all those, you start putting all your energy into this future that you've decided you should have. So you've already got this future in mind, and that just got taken away. One of the things that I look at is, it's like, if we just relaxed a little bit and went, what about with 2021? If I went, what, today I'd like to get more present in my life. And what I like to look at is, what would I like my life to be like this year? Not what would I like to have in it, or what would I like to look like, or do I want to give up this and take on this and do all this? Because that's where we keep going into this place of judgment. But it's like, but if we looked at what would I like my life to be like for me, I look at that, I go, okay, so what would I like my life to be like in the next 12 months? And I get this energy of, okay, I'd like to have more space in my world. I'd like to have more joy. I'd like to have more of a sense of possibilities. Okay, so what choices do I need to make today to start getting to that? Because like all of us, I've done New Year's resolutions, and I've done all that where I go, what, I'm going to have this much money, and I'm going to have this kind of house and and all of these material things. And then I get them, or I either get them and then go, well, I'm not any happier. Or I don't get them, and then I go, well, now I'm more unhappy because now I'm judging myself for not getting what I've decided I need. So we trap ourselves in it rather than just look at it and go, relax. What would it be like if I just started being present with my life and started figuring out what I truly like to create it as?
Yeah, it's It's so true. And, you mentioned something there as well that I think is key, really that comes to it all. Because yes, we constantly live with this kind of illusion of the future and we're building into the future. And when we do X, Y, and Z, we'd be happy. Or when we have X, Y, and Z, we'd be happy. And as 2020 taught us all, it's great to have all these plans. But then when, life steps in and we're all grounded and things aren't happening, it's like, well, what do I do now? And you mentioned it's that preparing ourselves. And that really is key because, again, it's how do I shift back to presence and being present? And I think a lot of people struggle with the present, really. Like I know for me, in my case, I always thought I was present just by the fact that it was, Friday and I had X, Y, and Z to do and I had this appointment and that appointment. But now I can see I was actually never present because I was in my mind the whole time, always 10 steps ahead of myself. So how can you help people to really, what does it mean to be present and really to connect to the present?
Well, you just said it quickly, and it's like, because it's like we think we're present when we're not, because we go into this, well, I've got my whole day planned out and I'm
planned out
about it. My whole year planned out, so I'm thinking about it. I can tell you right now, anytime you're thinking, you're not present. And most people would go, but how do I done if I don't think? By choosing. If you went, okay, I have 10 seconds to choose the rest of my life, what do I choose? Okay, that 10 seconds is over. I have 10 seconds to choose the rest of my life. What do I choose? Okay, that 10 seconds is over. Most people will last 10 minutes with this and they'll go, oh my God, that was too much work.
Yeah.
And it can be to start with, like it's a muscle to build, but you don't have time to think. You only have time to act and to choose based on your awareness. So when we think we're not being present, when we just go, oh, I feel like an airhead right now, oftentimes that's when you're most present with your awareness. That's when you have total space to choose from.
I love that word, space, because that's exactly it as well. That I think, like you mentioned, we're so caught in the thinking that we actually don't realize that if we're not thinking, or that we have another choice, we have another option of a way to be. So we just constantly think, because if we think, and I know it was my case, if I think I'm thinking and I'm thinking about all solutions and situations, well, then I'm not going to get caught off guard. I'm going to have every base kind of covered. Whereas life is life. And as you mentioned, I love that space and choosing moment to moment, because you actually realize that, well, it is just an ever evolving moment. So getting really connected to that and present with that makes all the difference. But then, like you said as well, that is difficult as well for people to make that transition and to be so present and to be in that space of the ability to constantly respond as opposed to reacting to what you think is. But again, it comes back to a lot of people's inner critic or self-talk, or the idea of having to meet others' expectations. How do you help people as well to deal with that and shift from caring so much what others think that keeps them maybe in that thinking and doing loop unconsciously?
Well, I'd say look at how it works. Like, I mean, we've all done it. We've all gone, well, this is what this person thinks of me, so I should do what they think is right for me. And then we do it and they still judge you. You can't get out of judgment by doing what you judge for. It just doesn't work. If someone's judging you for being mean to them, if somebody accuses you of something, recognize first of all that they only accuse you of that because they themselves are doing it. But then what we do is we go, well, okay, so you're accusing me. Okay, let me figure out what meanness is to you. And we're so psychically aware. Okay, meanness is this to this person. I need to start being the opposite of that so that they accept me. You've just given up your reality for somebody else, and then they still don't have a different point of view about you. So it's like, I would say it's pragmatically look at it and go, okay, is any of it working? Is any of it truly working? And if it's not working, it's like, I mean, Einstein had the brilliant definition of insanity was doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting So I think most people are insane, me included. I've done that also. It's like, well, let me that didn't work that time, but let me just do it again and just do it a little bit different,
Yeah.
and then it will see if it works at that time. And it still doesn't work.
Yeah, it's so true. And yeah, I love that quote as well because it is insanity. It's the absolute epitome of insanity. But again, then, we're all blind, and that's the power for me anyway of kind of the inward journey and self-discovery and allowing yourself, like you said, we're also psychically aware, allowing ourselves to be intuitively guided and to lean into that and to trust it. But again, it often comes back to people feel that, oh, well, we can't change. This is who I am. This is how I've been. It's because of X, Y, and Z. And I know you're a person who has reinvented themselves. So maybe even sharing a little bit of your story and like literally what is possible as well.
Yeah. Okay. So let me do that. I just want to go back to one thing because it's
Yeah.
like it's clicking in my head with the thing with being present.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel people getting really stuck on that when they're like it's such a head trip when people go, okay, let me think about how to be present. You're out of it.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, because one of the things that just popped into my head where I was like, how do I explain this from a different way is, have you ever been in an emergency situation? For most people, they've been in some kind. So I'm going to give you an example from my own life. Is I was in a house fire about 18 years ago, and I got woken up by my girlfriend at the time in this house fire, and the house was falling down around us, and she had two kids, and I went into gear, and I got these kids out of there, knew exactly what to do, got her out of there, got everything handled as the house crumbled down, and I got outside and then thought, that's when I was not present. Inside that house, I was 100% present because I knew exactly what to do in the moment. What I would say with people is it's like, it's not about that you're not present. You're just choosing not to be. Like, look at a time in your life and go, oh, yeah, I had this situation where I almost crashed my car and I knew to turn down I knew to veer off or whatever it is. But when you're being completely present, you're being completely in your knowing. And you can't explain, like that can't be explained by thought at all. So I just wanted to put that out there so people have a little bit more of a clarity to go off. And so what was the other thing? Sorry, me changing my life. I went off on a tangent.
No. That's no. I'm actually what's going through my mind as well. Thank you for sharing that as well, because, like you say, it is a bit of a mind trip, and to try get your head around it. But it's not about getting your head around it. It's the experience. It's always
Yep.
in the being of it that you're like, okay, that's it. And I love even
Yep.
how Eckhart Tolle says, he talks about how there being no problems. There's only solutions, and I think that's that
Yep.
really present awareness. Like when we are so present, we have a non-resistance to what is. So then we always have the capacity to think of creative solutions, in the moment as they arise. Like you said before, it's that choice, that choosing of that. It's, just shifting from the overthinking and trying to prevent things happening. Well, I think, from my
Yep.
perspective, when I think back of trying to plan and control to prevent anything from happening, I mean, life is always happening. There's always going to be challenges and difficulties of all sorts of descriptions, and that's fine. But again, it's that shifting in or awareness or that ability to choose in the moment and come out of the story is really powerful as well. Like you said, just in the house, you knew exactly what to do in the moment. You weren't thinking or overthinking or wasting time going, should I go here or should I go there? You were just doing it because, again, I suppose that being intuitively led as well to know what is the right step right now.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's like, and that's when we rarely allow our capacities that we have available to show up. And for a lot of us, we do it in an emergency situation. That's why I know when I facilitate classes and they say, but I have fear of this. And I say, okay, do you really have fear? Yeah, I really have fear of it. Okay, so in an emergency situation, do you fall apart and crumble and just fall down and give up? Or do you get calm, cool, and collected and know exactly what to do? And 100%, I've never had one person out of everyone I've asked that question say, I fall apart.
Yeah.
They've all said, I get calm, cool, and collected, and I get my shit together, and I get it done. And
Yeah.
that's the capacity that we have as beings. I mean, look at the reality that we've grown up in, that we live in. It's all about, find the answer, It's
Yeah.
all about judge yourself for this. It's all about listen to the powers of government and education and financial systems. It's never
Mm-hmm.
about question. And with the thing that you said, what Eckhart Tolle said was my sense with that is what he was getting to was it's like it's getting to question.
Mm.
Because if you go straight to a question of if something shows up and you go, like whatever it is shows up and you go, okay, so what's it going to take for this to change? You've already moved, you've already moved forward into it. You've moved forward into looking to, okay, so what's it going to take to change this? Without a projection or expectation of what needs to change exactly. But this is the other key part with it is in order to have that, you've got to be willing to get out of control.
Yeah.
And for most of us, we go, no, but if I judge myself, I know I can control myself. If I have the answer, I know I can control myself rather than the question. I'm going to need to be totally out of control because with true question, you allow the universe to contribute to you and you cannot control the universe. It is uncontrollable.
Yeah, oh, that's so powerful. And I love how you mention questions because, yeah, it really does just like, well, you mentioned the word as well, space. It really just creates a different energy and space about it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
for me as well, when I ask questions as well, it often kind of takes me out of the overthinking and the overanalyzing. And again, like that, the energy shifts that I'm a bit more back present. I'm like, then something might pop in. So I love that as well. And the idea of, control. And I think it comes down to, well, I know for me, again, if it was like, if I can control things, well, then I'm safe. Whereas now it's like, I realize.
Well said. Very well said, though, Karen. If I can, I know that I'm safe. And that's what a lot of us look for is the safety in life.
Mm-hmm.
If I can control it, I know I'm safe. And that's why we've created our lives in this safety thing where we go, well, if I know I'll be safe. I know I can get the things that are going to allow me to have a life which I can control. And that's why for a lot of the people in this world that have bigger lives, that have, more money or they travel more or they have more things, or notice I'm saying more of material things, which is what we look at as a bigger life. And for me, I'd look at it as a bigger life as a 6-year-old kid who's playing in the park, who has all of him and doesn't really care about what else is going on, but knows he has all of him.
Yeah.
That's what I would say is a bigger life. But for most of us, what we look at is we go, well, why can't I have that? Well, would you still have the same comfort? Would you still have the same safety if you had that much money? Could you still control yourself if you had that much money? And that's why a lot of us don't allow our lives to get bigger, is because we go, well, that is unknown. It's unseen. How am I ever going to control that?
Yeah. And what then for you is the antidote to that?
Well, I would say if you looked at yourself as what are those things called? They're like they're like a whiteboard thing and they're little and you draw on it and it's got magnets underneath it.
Like the kind of sketchers or something? I can't remember what exactly they were called.
Etch a sketch up, right? So if you looked at your life like that and you went, okay, so you're going to make shitty choices. We all do. I do it every day. I go, oh, that was a shitty choice. Yeah. But it's like, if you could just go, okay, erase. If you didn't have rear vision mirrors on your life, you went, got to keep moving forward. And that's the thing that I would say is the antidote to it, is recognize that the future doesn't revolve around the past. The future revolves around the choices that you make right now in the present. And that doesn't mean that you're going to still have your past with you, because for a lot of us, including myself, we have these things called children. You can't erase them. You got still things in your past, but one of the things we do with our past is we create these things called reference points. So what we do is we go, something will show up today and you go, okay, well, this is what happened when that showed up 12 months ago. So this is how I need to deal with it. And we keep referring back to the past in order to deal with our present and then in order to create our future, rather than just go, okay, if I could create anything today I'd like to create, most people would go, I have no idea. Yeah. To that, I would say, good, awesome place to start. So start there and just go, what can I create today? What choices could I make today that I've never chosen before? Who could I be today that I've never been willing to be before? What action could I take today that would create a greater future for me right away?
Yeah, great questions. Love those. And the shitty choices, yes, definitely. You like that. For me as well, it's a remembering actually I'm a human. I'm actually not a robot. And I think for years I operated as a robot because, like you mentioned as well earlier, we build our sense of self based off of, what society tells us, family, how we're meant to be, like how we're meant to act in order to be loved or seen as successful, that we kind of lose then who we truly are, our sense of self. So that shitty choices, like we're all human. Everyone makes mistakes. And again, I think the issue is for a lot of people and a lot of us at times getting caught in the trap of taking things personally or really attaching to it.
Yeah. And that's that place where we go into self-sabotage. We go into, if we can judge ourselves enough and make ourselves wrong enough, then we'll finally get our lives right. But who did you learn that from? And for me, it's like, I mean, I grew up, well, I didn't actually grow up with him. I had an abusive father until we moved out when I was 6. He was still in my life until I was 20. So for me, he always wanted me to be this rough, tough Aussie bloke. He was always like, got to get out there and you got to play football and you got to be tough and you got to do all this. And I was like, and it just wasn't me. Like for me as a kid, I was Ferdinand. I want to go and lay in the grass and smell flowers. I want to look up at the clouds and imagine the shapes that they form. I wanted to imagine this world that was full of magic and possibilities. That was my reality as a kid. So what I did was I went, well, he's my dad. He must know more than me.
Yeah.
Right. And we do that with our parents.
Yeah.
They must know more than us. And then, so I went, okay, I'm going to try and be normal. I'm going to try and be this rough, tough, it just didn't work. So for the next 20 years, I just judged myself for not being able to be this thing so that I could be right in his eyes, but also be right in everybody else's. And it just, see, every time we judge ourselves, we give up. We don't give it up, but we put aside a part of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's why who live in this reality, when we feel so different, is we start going, why can't I just be happy? I don't care about all the money and stuff. I don't care about the cars and the houses, and I like them. For me, it's like, I like travel. I like nice clothes. I like pretty things. I like all of that. But if you gave me an ultimatum right now, if you could have happiness of all of that, I would say happiness in a heartbeat. I would say for a lot of people, they would have the same point of view. Give me happiness in a heartbeat, because the thing is, everything that you desire in life, when you have joy, will follow it. We've all had it. Like when you're happy, everything goes, well, I want to be with you.
Yeah.
Whether that's a car or money, or all follows joy. Joy does not follow it.
Yeah, so true. And, it comes back to, it even reminds me again of that sense of, control and safety. And whereas now I'm like, well, for me, that safety is actually an internal feeling state. It has nothing to do with the externals, because actually everything external is constantly in flux. So I love that as well when you follow joy, when you find that place within yourself and can connect to it, no matter what is happening, then there'll always be that sense of kind of balance and safety and kind of resilience, I suppose, to be able to get through what is showing up. So I really love that as well. Following joy is so powerful and crucial as well. Like the shifts that we've been going through in 2020. Well, I believe anyway, everything happens for a reason. So there was a reason we've all kind of been shook up and woken up and seen the truth of how things were that maybe weren't best for ourselves, for the planet, for whatever. So what do you think is key as well moving forward from 2021 kind of onwards, as we really are shifting and creating and building new?
We've got to start choosing more consciousness. And it's like, for those of us who have the courage or have the willingness to be different enough to choose it, we've got to start being that different, because it's like one of the things we've been talking about for quite a lot of years in Access and showing up around the world. And I've watched many documentaries and read several articles and stuff on the planet is dying, and it's like, and this has been a wake up call for a lot of people. But it's like, I mean, just put one out on Netflix a while back called David Attenborough, and it's called A Life on Our Planet. And it takes you through his life, and he talks about how grateful he is for seeing the
Mm.
planet, but it also shows how it shows this bigger picture of, okay, we've gone from this much population to this carbon emissions
Yeah.
to the amount of forests on the planet percentage wise to the land coverage. And then he moves through the years. He talks about it like and shows you how the fish in the oceans are dying. I mean, we have a beautiful planet, and we don't really see it because you'd walk outside. You go to a place like what we were talking about before in Puerto Vallarta,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, and I spent 2 months there, and it's like, and I was in the ocean, and I went out to all these islands and these waterfalls, and it's stunningly beautiful. You wouldn't think the planet is dying,
Yeah.
but it is. And he says it brilliantly because at the end of it, he gets to it and he shows you everything. And then he says, okay, here's 4 simple solutions that we can start taking right now to change it. And this is what I get for those of us who really want to create change. If we start choosing more consciousness, this is the thing that's going to bring us more joy. And this is the thing that's going to give us, it's not a purpose for life, but I would say for those of you who are out there knowing that you're here for something different, you're here for something different. So it's like, go for that. That's the thing that's going to give you the joy in your life.
Yes, hell yes. And, leaning into that difference as well, again, comes back to things in the conversation and making, asking the questions. And for me as well, it's that curious self-discovery journey, that inward journey, that inner resource of joy and resilience and springing from that place. Because again, if we just keep living from the externals, it kind of won't, it's fleeting, and that's like, it is what it is, but the people, like you're
Definitely.
saying, the people really who are feeling different or who are called to something different, I think they're the ones particularly to kind of lean into it, embrace it and go, yeah, do you know what, I am? And I'm here to do something about this and to use this gift,
And can I just say one thing about that too, because you said it brilliantly with the leaning into it thing, is it truly is like leaning into it. It's like you're standing upright and you're like, I know that I could go forward into this, but I don't know what it's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you lean into it, and that can truly be one of the most uncomfortable things ever to experience, because the thing with that is you have to trust yourself.
Yeah, and life, the universe.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. That's a brilliant documentary. And there's another one, Kiss the Earth or Kiss the Ground as well.
Kiss the Ground.
Super powerful. Yeah. And for me anyway, I have faith in Mother Earth. Like, she's been around for millennia. She has got this. She can evolve. We're actually the ones who are endangered. We are the ones who will wipe ourselves out long before. Yes, we'll plunder and destroy Mother Earth in the process, but she will keep going. We won't. Yep. And I think that's the crux where we're at as well. And the reason why there's so many shifts going, and again, it comes back to each of us individually choosing, leaning into what is right for us. That's the way change happens as well. There's an onus on us all, as opposed to a top-down, wait for someone else. That's the old system of someone else will fix it. No, we're all responsible. Yeah. We all have to step up. And just even a word in the name of the podcast as well, but consciousness. I adore it. Like, that has been such a huge shift in connecting to that in my life. But when you say choose more consciousness, what does that mean for you?
Well, the definition we have of consciousness in Access Consciousness is consciousness includes everything and judges nothing. And because I've searched for definitions of consciousness for years and years and years. Like, growing up, I was like, consciousness, what's that? That sounds cool. And it was always about, well, you have to do the right thing. You have to it was always like this enlightening point of view from this reality of, I would say, unobtainability. It was almost like something you couldn't reach for. And it was like there's a few special people on the planet that could have consciousness, but the masses couldn't. I say the masses can, if they're willing to get out of judgment, stop going into this place of judgment, wherever you're judging somebody else or wherever you're judging yourself, and look at it and go, okay, what is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? And if so, how do I change it? And then the next part to it is get happy, whatever that takes. We have science. We have scientific studies out there that show so many different things that I find fascinating. They've done studies where they had plants where projected anger at those plants.
Mm.
And they had plants where people projected happiness and joy and laughter at those plants. The plants that had anger projected at them died. The plants that had the happiness and joy and laughter projected at them flourished. That's what our planet does. We've seen it firsthand with the COVID lockdown. When it first went into lockdown in the first 3 months, we were following stories, and there was from India, they saw the Himalayas for the first time in, I can't even remember how long. Children in China were seeing blue skies for the first time in their lives. Like, they didn't even know what it was. They were going, what happened to the sky? It's blue.
Yeah.
There was wildlife in like San Francisco in the city, in New York, in all throughout Europe. They had like wildlife running through this because no one was out there. And the planet, it generated itself again. It just went, oh, good, some space. But even in that, it's like with the David Attenborough thing. And sorry, I know I'm talking quick, but you get me sparked when I start.
No, go for it. It's good.
And I'm like, I can talk about this ever. But it's like in the David Attenborough thing, he showed the stuff on Chernobyl, you know, with the worst nuclear, well, possibly the worst disaster the planet has ever, the worst man-made disaster that the planet's ever seen. And then they showed it, and it's like the forest is growing through all the buildings now. They had wild dogs walking through there and stuff, and it was like, it's fine. But do we want to have that planet to live on in 100 years? Do we want to have that planet to live on in 1,000 years, in 10,000 years, in 50,000 years? Because, see, the thing that a lot of us do, and especially like my generation, is the now generation. You know, it's, well, now is it. You know, we kind of got to this point where it's like you kind of know that the planet's dying somewhere in your world, and you just go, well, what's the point? Like you said before, someone else will deal with it. What's the point? No, we can change it, and it doesn't take what most people think. Most people think it takes, you know, without getting too far into it, we've tried so many different things that haven't. We're a little bit slow on. We're kind of a little bit out of time to be just focusing on recycling bottles. And I'm all for recycling, don't get me wrong, but that's not the one thing that's going to save the planet. But what I would offer to people is, what if your being and the difference that you are was the thing that could change the planet? And it's like, most people, you cannot think about that. So I want to offer a different possibility with this. Is what I do is, whenever I can, and every morning when I wake up, I ask, what contribution can I be today to the planet? And I don't know what I look like. I don't know what that is. It might be just me getting happier. It could be anything. But can you imagine if, let's say even 1 billion people on this planet right now. So what, 10%, a little bit more than 10% of the people on this planet right now started asking for, what contribution can I be for the planet today? Just that energy in that question, would that change the energy on the planet?
Powerful. And what a great question. And for me as well, it ties back to something else when you say, when you get out of judgment and then, you know, get happy, it's that happiness. Again, it comes back to, well, we don't have to make it conditional like maybe we have through consumerism and materialism. Like, they're fine, they can add to our happiness, but that's not the true core, and not making it so conditional. Like you mentioned, be that curious child or adult staring at the flowers lying on the grass. And like you say, shifts happen so quickly that we actually don't even realize, but we have to be doing it in order to see the shifts. And, you know, I think even like 2020, we've seen the impact of our ways that we were blind to before. We, you know, like you say, we're in our own little pocket going, oh, but it's all good here, it looks fine. But we've seen across the globe, through us halting and the consumerism and the travel and the constant moving and the constant producing and buying, that, oh, actually we have been making a huge impact and really destroying Mother Earth, but how quickly she can regenerate as well. That's why I'm like, I have total faith in her. She is fine. It is us.
The funny thing with that, she could let off 10 super volcanoes right now, and we'd all
totally
be gone.
We're all gone. Yeah.
You know, so it's like, and see, the thing with that also is the planet has so much allowance, because the thing we don't get is the planet, it could choose right now to shake us all off, to get rid of us all. But it doesn't, because it goes, hey, I know you guys are idiots. I know that you're not choosing more consciousness right now, but I'm also an allowance of that.
Yeah. Well,
So
it's
you jogged one thing that I just want to bring up with what you laying in the flowers and stuff like that. I want to give people a tool that I don't even think I've ever talked about before. But I want to anyone who's up for it right now, who's listening to this, is look back at some age when you're a kid and you were like, I want to be this when I grow up, whether it be a fireman or I want to be happy, I want to be rich, or I want to be whatever that was. Because see, as a kid, when you asked for it, you had the joy behind it.
mhm.
You didn't ask for it from this place of need. You went, oh, I want to do it because I'm curious of what that would be like, and it might be fun and it'd be awesome. And, and you had that energy behind you. Now,
Yeah.
ask for yourself right now when you look at that, okay, so what would it take for me to have that energy with everything I choose now? Because you still have it. Anything that you've had in the past, anything that you've chosen in the past, any joy that you've had in the past, even if you're the best person on the planet right now, you still have that joy. You
Mm.
just cloud it. You're just not choosing it.
Yeah. So true. So true. And like that, we can connect back to it in an instant if we
You
so
can.
choose. But like you say, it comes down to our choosing. It's not going to land on our lap, or like that, we will make it fleeting by just certain things happening, which, if we leave it on the balance of the externals, well, you're not going to feel that joy too often, perhaps. So connecting back to that within ourselves, because again, like that, for me now, I see it's an internal feeling state. It actually really has nothing to do with the externals. It is something at our fingertips that we can choose to feel through the simplest of acts. Or even you can train yourself to just feel it. You get to a place and you're like, joy, and you're like, oh yeah, because our body doesn't know the difference whether it's real or imagined. So that is the power. And I'd love to know, just before we wrap up, one of your most favorite aspects of your work, and maybe one of your favorite tools that you use every day. And maybe you've alluded to it in the conversation, but that you use as well to keep you in this space of kind of curiosity.
Well, I know for me, when I'm not happy, there's something that I'm not willing to be. So I would say to keep me in the place of curiosity is go, okay, so what more can I be? But also recognize, like we've talked about in this, is we're extremely psychically aware. We're extremely aware. And as much as a lot of people don't want to know that, 99.999999999% of the stuff that's going on in your life right now may not be yours. You might be
Mm.
aware of it. I just want to say this real quick because it's just up in the world right now. Is I was talking with a friend before, and she was looking at the different SEOs with Google and stuff, the different search engines and
Mm-hmm.
what people have been searching. And in the last 5 years, the three top things that people have searched for have been depression, suicide, and I can't remember the other one, but they were all along those lines. And I was like, wow, because most people don't get that there's something else out there that they can choose. And there is. And I would say if you're listening to this and it's like, find something, whatever that is, it's like, find something and know that wherever you are in your life right now, there's something out there that will contribute to you.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Thanks for sharing those. And I think, well, for me as well, when you said that, it comes back to what you just said before that 99.9999999% of things are not ours, but we believe they are. And then we get
Yeah.
into this state of depression and suicide and feeling low because, again, we feel like we're failing at life because we're not living up to someone else's ideas or expectations or even our own of how we should be.
Yeah.
So I think, again, that all ties in and comes back to choosing what's right for you. Essentially, when we
Yeah.
all do that. And I know even for me that
Yeah.
that can seem like a scary journey because it's like, oh, but I can't tell people or be how I am. Like, what if they reject me or speak bad about me? And it's like, no, it's all fine. That's actually just all we need to be is ourselves.
I know, right? And
Yeah.
we spend so much of our lives going, well, but what's this person going to think of me? I can
Mm.
guarantee you, no one's thinking about you. Most people on this planet are so self-interested in themselves, they're thinking about themselves. So we're
Yeah.
creating our lives, wondering what everyone's going to think about us. They're not.
Yeah. So true. So true. What a really fascinating and super conversation, and powerful conversation, I think, as well, to start the year off with this perspective and with this. Maybe someone has been piqued, or their interest or curiosity going, okay, yeah, maybe I can choose differently. Maybe I can be different in the world. Maybe I can actually just be myself and not be worried about what others think, because at the end of the day, they're entitled to think whatever the hell they want, you know? So I think a really fantastic conversation to start the year. And please share if there's any party messages that are coming up that you feel need to be shared. And please share where people can find out more information on your work.
Oh, definitely. And after this conversation, I want to share all of it with Access Consciousness. So accessconsciousness.com, check that out. accessconsciousness.com/bars. Definitely check that out. We've got a Global Bars Day coming up on January 16th. It's going to be worldwide. It's going to be pretty much going to know everything about Access on that day. So Amazing. We've got that. If you want to check out more of my stuff, it's brendonwatt.com. And we have tens of thousands of videos and free stuff online now that you can just search. Just find a facilitator, search drdanehere.com. He's just brilliant. But it's like, just know that, hey, there's a lot of people, as much as it doesn't really feel like it right now, there's a lot of people that got you back. And what if 2021 could be the year of you, like actually getting some joy in your life and having that.
Amazing. And as always, I will link all of the links, and definitely, yes, Access Consciousness has fantastic resources on their website, and even YouTube videos of Dr. Dane here I've been watching and everything as well since I had my bars run. And it really is a powerful tool, I think, for anyone who like that would like to get more into question as well, because really, you know, question is everything, and the quality of our life comes down to the questions we're asking, mainly of ourselves. So super important. And thank you so much, Brendon, for joining today. And I just wish you the best of success and continued joy and curiosity and exploring possibilities on your journey.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. I'm very grateful.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you get notified every time a new show is released. Get more information on this week's guest as well on my website, www.soulpowerlight.com.